We're going to start today with our feet completely together, thinking about squeezing everything in from the outside and standing up really nice and tall. So I'm going to start at my feet, thinking about squeezing my insteps together if you can. My legs are slightly bowed, so I'm going to squeeze my knees towards each other. Don't worry if that doesn't work for your shape of your legs, it's absolutely fine. Just apply a bit of pressure from both sides towards the centre, which should make you a little bit more aware of your pelvic floor and activating along our midline. And then I'm going to place my hands at the back of my head. And I'm just going to keep my elbows nice and forwards, shoulders are drawn down, still squeezing the legs together, making sure that weight is evenly distributed between big toe joint, little toe joint and the heel. Applying that squeeze, and then thinking about lengthening my spine up through the centre. So I'm lifting the crown of the head up towards the ceiling, and I'm also pushing my head into my hands a little bit. So there's no change in anything, but I'm just trying to lengthen, sending my tailbone down a little bit, lengthening the spine, lifting my rib cage off of my hips, working quite hard all round, and then I'm going to take some nice deep breath. So big breath in through the nose. And I'm just going to think about and explore out through the mouth as if you're, breathe out through the mouth as if you're blowing out through a straw. There's my first rhyme, well hey, early on. I'm going to think about where my breath is going. So as I take that big breath in through my nose, hopefully not feeling the shoulders rise up. They will want to, but I'm actively drawing my shoulder blades down in the opposite direction. And then hopefully noticing that on the breath out, the rib cage draws down and connects towards the hips. This is that, creating that capital X, that strong connected torso. My legs have relaxed a little bit. I'm going to squeeze those legs again. So I'm doing way too much talking to do the breathing properly, but hopefully you're still going. A couple more breaths. Breath in. Hopefully you're feeling these ribs expand sideways, and then feeling that rib cage especially drawing down, trying to get a little bit more height. One more. And drawing down. So the main focus for me there, two things. On the in-breath, this lovely expansion of the rib cage sideways, and on the out breath, this drawing down, everything connecting towards pelvic floor, which is switched on because the legs are squeezing in. Rib cage drawing down towards your hips, everything drawing towards that belly button. Internally, I'm gathering everything into there, and I feel very strong in my torso, and that's how I want you to stay for the moment. So we're going to keep this midline squeeze. We're just going to add some arms. We're going to take the arms out to the side, and as I take them out to the side and up, I'm going to roll my thumbs backwards, so my palms are really upwards. This making me feel like I want to lift my chest a little bit, but I'm going to try and keep it down. So we're lifting, continuing to lift up, and as I get to the top, I just bend my knees, actually bend my arms. I'm going to think about bringing my little fingers together. So I've rotated the arms all the way out, and I'm thinking about little fingers together, but I'm actually going to bring my palms together and then turn the palms the other way and push down through my arms as they lower. Taking a breath in as you lift up, thinking about squeezing my legs together, still turning the palms down. As I lower my arms, I want to lift the crown of the head up even higher. I'm thinking about as well the rotation in my shoulders, in that shoulder girdle, as I take those arms up, especially as you try to get your little finger side together at the top, and then turning the palms down, noticing that it's much more comfortable. Let's add a rise to this. So let's add a rise with the breath in and a breath out as you lower. Try and control that lowering. So breath in, ankles together, breath out to lower, breath in, breath out to lower. Let's reverse the arms and the breathing. So let's take a breath out as you go up. Feeling that rib cage draw down, turn the palms, push the arms down, take your breath in. This gives me a lovely length in the spine, if I can keep my balance. It's much harder to balance. Breath out to go up with the arms, breath in, almost pushing down on the underneath of my arms, applying pressure. Imagine you're in water, you're pushing your arms down through that water. Keeping the ankles really glued together. Last one, breath out and breath in to lengthen that spine all the way up to the top and then lowering with control. Good job. We are going to go feet hip width apart and take some shoulder tracing. Shoulder tracing, all about the movement of the shoulder. And also we're going to get some work going with the muscles around the shoulder blades in the back, your shoulder blade or scapular stability. So my feet are hip width apart. Shoulder tracing looks like this. You bring your thumbs up the side seam of your top, elbows are going out to the side, and you're trying to, and this is really uncomfortable on my right shoulder, I can see myself in the mirror, that's dropping down. So if you've got a bad shoulder, this will be uncomfortable, but try and go with it. It will feel much better afterwards, I promise you. So elbow out to the side. We don't want that to happen. We don't want the shoulders to round forwards. You want to try and draw those shoulder blades down in your back. So I'm trying to take this elbow to that side, this elbow to this side, and we're here. And just try and get your thumbs up towards your armpits. Don't go any higher for the moment. And I'm actively drawing the shoulder blade down and then releasing. And then again, lifting up. So lengthening the spine. If you have got a bad shoulder, I would absolutely recommend doing this, try practicing this in a mirror so that you can see what's going on. I can really see that I'm struggling to keep this right shoulder in good alignment. So the idea from here is just to relax the hands and the wrists and try and get those elbows up a little bit higher than your shoulders. And I really feel like I've drawn my shoulder blades down in my back. It's like I've put them into gear almost. And then from there I'm going to just flip the hands to the back of the head. Just fingertips touching the back of the head. I'm going to come back down in front, elbows level with the shoulders, and then hands at the side and slide down. Let's do this a couple more times. It will get easier. It's about the timing in the muscles around the shoulder blade, the sequence, if you like, in the back. Not just the shoulder blade, actually the whole shoulder girdle. Oh, I'm still struggling with that right one a little bit. So we're here. If you can from here, bring your arms up to the ceiling, just up above your, and if I glance up, I can see my hands. Put your fingertips together into a sphere of tension. This is foundation training work, which my Pilates teacher does with us. And I've just done a class with her this morning, so I'm a little bit fired up with this work. It's really nice. This might be too much, but see if you can, put those fingertips there and then come back to the elbows wide, hands at the back of the head, and then flat hands here, and then thumbs to the side, and then relaxing down. Just give those shoulders a bit of a roll. That's tough work. All the time I was standing in nice, straight, strong legs in a good hip width position. Couple more exercises here. So same sort of thing. We're looking at the shoulders, we're looking at the scapular stability and endurance. You're going to put your little finger side of your hands together and your little fingers together, and you're going to squeeze them together. And you're going to, it's like, I call this opening a book. I don't know whether it's called that, but it's like you're opening a book, and your little finger side of your hands is the spine of the book. You're opening it and you're going to try and open beyond sort of flat. So I'm spreading my fingers and my thumbs apart. I've got my hands quite forwards. Especially if you're bigger chested, that's going to get in the way a little bit for this one. So just be comfortable, not too low, quite high up. So apply pressure, and then at the same time draw these shoulder blades down and into your pockets, in your back pocket of your jeans, if you like. switching on, and it's like the midline squeeze that we just did with the legs. I'm squeezing through the centre, and then keep that position there with your hands and bring them to the sides of your hips. Again, we're looking at the side seam, and I've pinned my elbows back in order to come into that position. I'm applying that pressure into my hips, into the top seam, the side seam of my hips. I'm trying to spread my fingers and my thumbs far apart, and I'm trying to rotate my thumbs backwards at the same time as pinning those elbows backwards. And I can really feel it working around here. Hopefully you can feel that as well. Hold that position there. We're building stamina, we're building the endurance in the muscles. There might be even be a little bit of shaking going on, and that's all good. And then I want you to add on to this. So we're in the perfect position for our narrow mini hip hinge. Keep this pressure going if you can, and just take a little hip hinge. So the knees are soft, you're hinging from the hips, you're sending your bottom back, keeping your chin tucked in. And coming upright. Holding that back if you can. So holding in that hinge position, the mini hip hinge. No stress on my back, no stress on my lower back especially, but I can feel the muscles around my shoulder blades really working hard. I feel like I'm in a good position. I feel like I'm in my spine's in its natural curves, pinning those elbows back, starting to get a little bit of shaking now. My weight's on my heels, I'm tapping both feet and then coming up. Brilliant. And again, just take some shoulder rolls, just loosen that off a little bit. So let's explore that, that movement into our narrow squats. So let's just take the arms by your side and turn your palms forwards. Take a narrow squat, sending your bottom back, so feet are hip width apart, send your bottom back, take a bend in the knees and the ankles and just reach the arms forward, just scoop the arms forwards. But palms are up, so there's that rotation again, and really be aware of the position of your shoulders, and then come up. And again, sending the bottom back and coming up. So I feel very aware of the muscles around here, which when we take our squat, if I go sideways, it's helping me to keep the shoulders in a perfect position, as opposed to that happening. Quite often, especially when we bring the arms forwards, and I've turned my thumbs up, my thumbs are up now, this rounds, this joint rounds and falls forwards. Whereas if I turn my palms up and focus on switching on those muscles around the shoulder blades, that feels a much better, stronger position. So that's a few narrow ones. Let's go wider now. So take the toes out slightly, legs turned out slightly in the hip socket, feet are much wider, and then the same thing. Think about the deep, narrow squat, so send your butt back first, make sure those knees are going over the toes. Hopefully you're aware that the upper back is staying nice and broad. Sending that bottom back, the weight is through your heels, and you might even be feeling a little bit of muscle stress going on there, but that's fine. So let's get those legs warmed up a little bit. Remember your deep squats, one of your 10 things to do every day. Couple more, maybe getting a little bit lower if you can, but I'm not compromising with those shoulders. I'm drawing them back and down, focusing on that position, and now the hips are getting a little bit warmer. Okay, great job. Let's take a little bit of one leg stand work. So from your feet completely together, in fact I'm probably going to need to come forwards a little bit, we're going to take a capital D with the moving leg. Standing really upright, so feet are together so that we hardly got any shift as we change over to one foot. So let's go onto your weaker side first if you can. Maybe pop your hands on your hips. Check that your top, this top I've got on today is very good example of how it's all nice and level and square. at the top and the bottom, so hips and shoulders facing forwards. And especially when we do something like this, one leg balance, and we're moving this leg around independently, it's going to really show up whether that torso moves or not. In fact, just put your hands anywhere on your torso to check. So release one leg. So you want to be really lifted up, lifted the rib cage, lifted off of your hips. Take the foot forwards into a point in your toes. And then we're going to carry it round to the side. So we're going to draw a capital D with this leg. Carry it round to the side, but keep your knees and the top of your foot facing forward. So what I mean by that is don't let it turn out. Absolutely don't let your hips move at all. Carry it round to the back, still in parallel. Again, because if you try and turn out, you probably will move your hips. Absolutely square. And then all you need to do to bring the leg forwards is to flex the foot. So in fact, if I go this way, I'm going to go this way. So I'm all nice and square. I've reached the leg forwards, carried it round to the side, no change. Carried it round to the back. There's a very almost imperceptible pitch forwards. So the weight's a little bit more on the ball of my foot now. Flexing that foot at the ankle. Flexing the ankle maybe is the correct term. So that means that I can bring the foot through, I don't put any weight on it, and then point my toes. Point the toes to the back, through. Keep going if you can. This is strong work. The whole time you need to be lifted with that rib cage, lift off of your hips. Otherwise, what happens when you're trying to get that leg through, you're going to want to bend the knee. Both legs are staying straight all the time. The change happens at the ankle. Both ankles actually, because when you pitch forwards, it's the other ankle that's very subtly changing to allow you to pitch forward so that nothing else changes. You should be starting to feel some strong work going on in that standing leg. I'm keeping everything absolutely square to my front. When you would really like to stop, I'm going to do one more in this direction. We're going to take at least 5 in the opposite direction. So from feet together, take the leg out behind you. This is a difficult part. From the back to the side, ooh, bring the leg forwards. Standing leg is really starting to complain now. Second one, 3 more if you can. Remember to work it. Pilates Class C is a little bit slower, but it's not any easier. I think this is the last one. Certainly feels like it needs to be as far as my standing leg is concerned. Feet together and ooh, give that a little shake. Well done. Okay, so we've just got all of that on the other side. Make a bit of a shake out, so that you'll forget about that one after a bit anyway. So feet completely together, plumb line, torso, square, release that leg, no change, there's no change in height when you take that leg forwards. Take it out to the side, knees, feet, top to feet facing forwards, take it round to the back, watch these hips, put your hands on your hips initially. As you flex that foot, it just skims through, flex the ankle, and then you're pointing the foot, you're just skimming the leg. Imagine you've got some sand underneath your feet, you're just drawing a beautiful semicircle, nice and accurate with your big toe when you're extended with that leg. Standing leg straight. Check everything. You can't afford to relax and collapse in the torso. I'm standing up as tall as possible all the way through, creating the space in this hip joint for this leg to be able to move in this way. Breathing, make sure you're breathing nice and evenly. Shoulders and hips square. to do, I'm going to do 2 more in this direction because I'm thinking that it might be quite nice to stop. I'm going to bring my feet together. I'm going to take 5 in the opposite direction. Take the leg out to the back. That back quarter is quite difficult to keep the hips still. Lift out of the hip. 3. 4. Last one. And 5. Give those legs a shake. Well done if you manage to stick with that all the time. Okay, I'm going to go sideways onto my mat. And we're basically going to combine a roll down with wide legs and then a hip hinge with wide legs. And I just want you to really focus on how it feels in your body. Focus on the different sensation between a roll down and a hip hinge. Completely different. So the first one for the roll down, we're mobilising, we're articulating the spine. I want you to imagine your spine, you're rolling down 1 vertebrae at a time. When you're taking the hip hinge with a nice flat back, I'm going to put my hands on my hips so that I really highlight that. But essentially that's the only bit that's moving. Everything else is going to stay in its nice neutral spine, neutral position. So let's start with the roll down. So feet are parallel. I'm going to lift my head up and over. So just explore how much of that neck moves before your shoulders start to move. I'm really focusing on keeping my pelvis in neutral and my hips above my insteps. I'm letting those arms hang. I can't go any further here, so I'm going to soften my knees slightly. Allow my pubic bone to slide back through my legs, rolling all the way down. Have a sense of unravelling onto the floor. With your arms, your legs are bending. It's sort of like your upper body is rolling down and unravelling onto the floor, like Rapunzel's hair, and then roll back up. Remember, it's a very strong tuck under. No need to use the buttocks, use it all in those lower abdominals. Stack the vertebrae one on top of the other. Head is the last part that's lifted, and then I'm going to place my little fingers in the crease of my hips as I hinge forwards. Finding that biting point for my hamstring stretch. And it's there. I'm going to hold it there a moment and just breathe, and then coming back up. Think about how your spine is moving in space with these very different movements. Take the chin onto the chest, take the roll down, let the arms hang. Go as far as you can and then let the knees soften. Unravel all the way down and then unravel all the way back up. Almost feel like this movement continues up and over, forwards. The length out through the crown of the head absolutely continues. Take a breath in, a breath out, come back up again. Shouldn't be any stress on your spine. One more of those. Knees are soft. This time just nod your head, shake your head. No tension in that neck. No tension in the arms, they're hanging as you roll up, strongly tuck under, unravel the spine, pitching forwards, hinging forwards. Think about those shoulder tips. In fact, just let your arms hang here. So think about whether your shoulders, if I go forwards, whether they're creating a door frame, which mine are now, or an arch. Let them drop forwards into an arch, then bring them back up and back into a door frame. Arch, door frame, arch, door frame. Couple more. And door frame. Finish on a door frame, and then let's just bend the knees, relax that upper body down, relax your head down. And then we're going to walk forwards onto all floors, all fours on the floor. Normally at this point I would change the position of my monitor, but I'm obviously not using that anymore, so Yeah, just move your laptop if you need to so that you can see what's going on. And we're going to start in all fours, in an all fours square box position, hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, and we're going to look at spine circles. So spine circles, lifting, mobilising the spine. You might have noticed we didn't really do any mobilising standing up today, so I thought we'd do it on all fours, or especially this mobilising the spine, which just feels really lovely. So think about your rib cage. You're taking it over to one side, you're lifting it up to the ceiling, you're taking it over to the other side, you're allowing it to drop down towards the floor. 3 or 4 in each direction. So arms and legs sort of become the pillars, and then you're moving your spine, your rib cage around in that framework, if you like. And then let's take a horizontal, so that was a vertical circle, let's take a horizontal circle. Spread the fingers and the thumbs far apart, dig the fingers into the mat a little bit. Explore again, where is the movement, where are you noticing the movement, where are you feeling changes? So it'll be in your wrist, your shoulders, your hips, your knees. 3 or 4 in each direction. And just changing around. Hopefully noticing that these wrists are getting a little bit stronger. I would really hope that that is happening for you. So from our square box position, we're going to explore, to start with, hinging, taking the weight back, so taking the bottom back towards the heels without the shape of your back changing. So what I mean by that is, if I just lift this top a little bit, so I'm in my natural curves of my spine, I'm in a neutral spine. As I go back, if I don't think about it, at some point, about halfway down, the tailbone starts to lengthen down towards the heels, and that lower back rounds. That's a perfectly natural thing, that's absolutely fine. But I want to find where that biting point for that is. So I'm going to take my hips back, but I'm actually going to slightly tilt my pelvis. It's very subtle, this, so that I can maintain this curve here, and I'm just increasing the crease, the hinge at the hip, without changing my neutral pelvis. And this is, it's very subtle, as I said. This is also what you would do when we're lying on our backs and we're working our abdominals, and we're bringing the leg in, and we don't want to let the pelvis shape change at all. We just want to change this angle here, that indent at the hip, if you like. So I can go quite a way back with my hips without that tailbone starting to draw down. And then what I'd like you to do is find that point and then pitch all the way forwards if you can. So this has got nothing to do with your shape of your lower back. This is all about stressing the wrists and the shoulders a little bit. So just moving between those 2 positions carefully. Stressing the wrist, increasing that angle there, a bit like you're making that tension more in your hip joint. So it is fairly similar, but just in different areas of the body. Okay, so we're going to bring those hands a little bit closer together. We're going to take a narrow press up in a minute, but I want you to just practice the narrow press up first of all. So hands a little bit closer together, fingertips really facing forwards. I want your the front of your shoulder to be over your fingertips, and this is a very basic narrow press up. You might only want to do this for today, but have a little look. You're going to tuck those elbows in so they make contact with your ribs as you go down and then straighten. Notice there is no change anywhere else in my upper body. I'm not doing this with my head. My head and neck doesn't change. The position, the angle, the length here stays the same all the way through. The elbows must tuck in. If you're struggling with this movement, come to here. So you're just kneeling. You can be kneeling up if that helps. And just bring those elbows in to make contact with your ribs. Don't let them go out to the side. Don't let them even be here. Tuck them in. That's what we're looking for. And then that gives you that support. It's also working the backs of the arms more. So this is the easiest version of a narrow press up that you could possibly do. The thing to do as well is don't be back here with those hips so that your elbows end up on the floor. I don't want you there. I want you forwards, and then I want those elbows to tuck in to your ribs as you go down. There. Okay, so here's the exercise. Have a quick look. So from your all fours position, with those hands a little bit closer together than normal, and those elbows, here's the other thing, sorry, the elbows can do this. So you want the crease of your elbow, the inside of your elbow facing forward, so that when you bend, the elbows go back. If they're facing inwards to each other, those elbows are going to go out to the side, and then that's quite strong, that's not a nice angle on the wrists. So from here, here's the exercise. We're going to stretch one leg away, just watch me first, lifting that leg up, and then I'm going to slide my hips back as we did just now, trying to maintain this straight line. You really will want to lean over on that opposite hip. I'm going to just test this balance here. I'm wanting my torso to be in a beautiful straight line, so I'm extending this arm forwards, extending the other leg back. Put that hand back down again, come forwards past your fingertips with the front of your shoulders, keep the leg up behind you, tuck the elbows in, leg goes up at the back, arms bend, you come to straight, you put the foot down, you swap sides. Just watch me once more on the other side. So extending the leg, easy peasy, lifting the leg up. We reach back, both hands down to start with. Then we're just going to, this makes it easier, release the opposite arm, hold that there a moment. Place that hand down, pitch forwards, 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 tuck those elbows in, and straighten and bring that leg back in. So you're only tipping forwards as much as the leg is going up at the back. It's not just a collapsing. If your nose is as big as mine, get your nose to the floor if you can. Tuck those elbows in. Okay, here we go. If you are joining in with me. So we're straightening one leg. We're lifting that leg. Your alternative would just be to practice this bit on its own. If you're too worried about the press-ups, that's absolutely fine. Stretch that leg back. Just take the opposite arm away. Think about shoulders, hips. Tissue box parallel to the floor. Place the hand down. Reaching forwards. Go past your fingertips, tuck those elbows in, the leg goes up at the back, you straighten and swap. 3 more, extend. Reaching back. This is where you really want to lean over on that knee, on the knee that's on the floor, you want to lean over on that hip, try not to. It will help once you release that opposite arm, lengthen fingertips, toes, away from each other, place that hand down, pitch forwards, tuck those elbows in, and straighten. This is tough. 1 more each side, extend, lift up, stretch back. Bit more pressure in the same side hand to keep those shoulders still. Lengthen the arm away. Place the hand down, bring those shoulders forwards, get equally weighted over both hands. Elbows, that was my forehead that time, that was a good one. And last one, here we go. Extend the leg. Slide back a little bit. Reach the opposite arm away. Hold it. Fine tune your position. Heighten your awareness. Hand is down. Coming forwards, tuck those elbows in, leg goes up at the back, and straighten, and there. Good job if you were with me all the way. Toes together, knees wide, come onto your elbows. Multitasking here, rolling from side to side, twiddling the fingers and the wrists. getting everything nice and fluid. Let's take those hands out wide, ears from side to side. Rolling up through the spine. Fantastic. And then we are coming onto our backs, into your base position. So lying on your back, rolling down carefully if you can. So let's come into a good base position. I want you to think about what we did at the very beginning here. So as in the breathing, standing, we were squeezing, taking that midline squeeze with the legs. We were thinking about our spine being lengthened, and we were taking some nice deep breaths. So let's just do that here. So big breath in through the nose, big breath out through the mouth, breath in again, and breath out. So hopefully, again, the thing that you're going to notice the most, on the breath in, the rib cage expanding, that's absolutely fine. It's going to expand forwards a little bit, maybe out to the side, especially when we're taking a really deep breath. Imagine if you're doing a Pilates exercise, you're not going to be taking a really big deep breath, but we do want to have this capacity in our rib cage to increase the amount of breath that's in your lungs. But the biggest thing for me is the drawing down of the rib cage when you breathe out, the lifting of the pelvic floor, the just gentle switching on around your torso. So just place one hand underneath your lower back if you can, and one hand on your tummy between your pubic bone and your belly button, and just take a couple of big deep breaths again. So big breath in through the nose. Not really much change going on here, hopefully you'll notice. And then big breath out. Hopefully, do it a couple more times. What I'd like you to try and I'd like you to hopefully notice is that there's a switching on of the muscles underneath between your hands. So pelvic floor lifts a little bit. When you take that extra deep breath out, pelvic floor switches on and lifts up a little bit internally. The lower abdomen there's no change in shape. That's what we're going to do in a moment. But there's a switching on of the muscles. It's almost like you've turned the dimmer switch on, but you haven't turned it all the way up. So you've just made that initial click. That's exactly what we want. We just want it switched on and then not turned up all the way. Because in comparison, keep the hand underneath the lower back. So quite often when we're doing abdominal curls, this pelvis, and you're switching on in your abdominal wall, the pelvis will take a pelvic tilt at the same time as you're using especially your upper abdominals for an abdominal curl. So now just explore that same thing. Let's go, big breath in, rib cage is expanded, breath out, and then as you take that breath out, actively take a pelvic tilt and apply loads of pressure onto your hand that's underneath your lower back, if you can get it there. And it should feel completely different. And even if you leave the hand at the front as well, that's very different. It's all sort of scooped in and sucked in. You've changed the position of the bones as opposed to just switching on. So that's like turning the dimmer switch all the way up, if you like, to full volume, I was going to say, but fully on and lit. So now let's explore that control of tilting the pelvis under, and let's go up into some bridges in 3 stages. So initially I just want you to take the pelvic tilt. So you're just going to push that lower back into the mat, scoop the tummy, pubic bone is higher than your hip bones, roll back to neutral, or roll back to your tailbone if you like, being on your tailbone. So your tailbone is neutral. So this is 0, this is number 1, pushing the waistband, centre of your lower back curve into the mat, going back to 0. From 1 to 0. Noticing no joining in with the buttocks. You don't need your buttocks for this. Let's go up to stage 2. We've only got 3 stages. So stage 1 is there. Push that waistband in. Now I'm going to push down through my feet and I'm going to come up to my bottom ribs. My ribs at the back. So sort of halfway up my thoracic spine, if you like. Lower ribs at the back. This is number 2. Butt switched on now. Pushing down through the feet. Pelvis is tilted. I'm going to roll back through number 1 and back out to 0. So go through 1 and lift 2. Back down 1 and 0. Let's go higher this time. This is the final stage. So through 1, through 2 is here. Now try not to lift the ribs. Just continue to lead with that pubic bone up to the last stage, which is the top part of your shoulder blades, that top flat edge, with your collarbone really nice and relaxed. Notice how, if you put your hand at the front of your ribs, the ribs aren't flaring. Quite often people take that last stage and they're right up here. Draw those ribs down. Let's come back down again. So we're in stage 3, which is the top of our bridge. We're going to come down through 2, through 1 and 0. And again, 1, 2, 3. Come back down. 2, 1, 0. Let's stay at the top this time. So all the way up again in the stages. 1, 2, 3. We're here. This time I want you to come back down from 3 to 2 and then go back up to 3 again. Noticing, hopefully, that these ribs don't flare at the front. This is quite hard work. 2. So all of my ribs at the back and then peeling back up again. Let's come down to the waistband. So 2, 1, lower back. This is really strong pelvic tilt. I haven't quite relaxed my buttocks because I feel like I'm still holding the position. And then come up through 2, back to 3. Make sure the collarbone's relaxed. Down through 2 and 1. Back up again. 2, 3. Last one. All the way down. 1 and 0. One more, all the way back up. 1, 2, 3 to the top. Hold it there, send those knees away. Feel like you're really opening up at the front of the hips. Just make sure the head is relaxed, collarbone open, and then reverse peel all the way back down through to neutral and then come back to here. Good. Let's add on to that our abdominals. So we're going to now switch on that abdominal wall, the same way we just did with the dimmer switch analogy, without that pelvic tilt at all. And we're going to take our legs out straight. I'm going to shuffle up the mat a little bit. So legs out straight along your mat and flexing your feet with your hands interlaced, fingers interlaced at the back of your head, the bulky part of your skull. Elbows are forwards. So here, if I just lay back, actually, here's the position we started in at the beginning, apart from we had our legs together, but we're going to have our legs hip width apart. Make sure the soles of your feet are nice and flat. No curly feet, no rolling, wrapping around with those little toes. Really flat, as if you're standing on a platform there. And let's just explore the abdominal curl from here. Another thing I want you to think about today, so 2 things actually. The head being heavy. Remember, your arms are a baseball glove, your head is a bowling ball. Lift your head up with your arms. Hinge here, no change anywhere else. You've just taken that switching on in the centre. So lifting and lowering. Watch when you lower that you don't relax. Notice whether your neck is relaxing or not. It shouldn't be, because your head should be heavy in your arms, in your hands, all the way through. So you're coming up, hopefully, to your shoulder tips of your shoulder blades being clear by 1 centimetre. That's why I got my finger around it, just realised that. So that's, if I could do it on someone, I would just be able to have enough space to get my fingertip between the tip of their shoulder blade and the floor. It's not from rounding here, that's how high I've lifted up. And I want you to just explore for a moment. Let's just give those feet a little bit of relax. It's giving me shin splints. What I call comfy position. So comfy position is where you come up. Let's just relax the feet as well. Let's be comfortable with feet as well. So legs are just relaxed. You're going to come up, and it's like you're trying to watch. Say you've got your laptop or whatever, your monitor where you can see me. The TV is at your feet, and you've just lifted your head up in your hands, and your head's nice and heavy and relaxed. You're not doing any work. You're not even in a Pilates class, and you can feel your shoulder blades are. You can sort of move your shoulder blades around, and the tip of your shoulder blades are in contact with the mat. I call this comfy position. So let's make it a little bit more technically correct. So your head is relaxed, you're in comfy position, which means my shoulder blades are touching the mat, and they're relaxed, if you like. I've got, say, 10% of a switching on going on in my torso. I want you to flex your feet because we're going to start to work hard. So set those legs up, move from comfy position, lift into the top of your abdominal curl, space for that fingertip, and then back down to comfy position. This is very strong once you get the feel of it. Lift and back to comfy position. So it's relatively comfortable. When you're doing this, you should be feeling some strong work going on. Try not to hold your breath. Try not to collapse. Try not to lift your head out of your hands. You're just lifting and lowering. Okay, we're going to stay here. We're going to stay in comfy position. Just wiggle the shoulder blades around. Know that you're not holding any tension. Move your head around. Keep those elbows forwards. I'm going to now point my feet and turn my legs out. So I'm in comfy position. If you wanted to work harder for this next exercise, you could try and clear those shoulder blades. We might try it a little bit. I'm going to open out my legs to just the edge of the mat, just slightly wider than my hips, with pointed feet. Legs are turned out of my hip sockets. I'm going to flex my feet and bring my heels together. Point, open, flex, close. Point, open, flex, close. This isn't stressful on my neck, but I'm working quite hard in my abdominals. I'm trying to squeeze the heels together as I bring them in. Flexing and pointing the feet, working at the ankles, switching on those inside thighs. Let's try another between 5 and 8 of the exact same thing, lifted up with that upper body. So I've cleared my shoulder blades. Okay, now we're working. Flex and point. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go for 10. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and have a little relax and collapse. Let that head roll from side to side. I just wanted to add, let's just add one more thing onto this. So we're going to come back to here, hands at the back of the head, elbows are forwards. So we're just going to add some oblique work. Let's just do once each side for today. So feet are flexed. You're going to take an abdominal curl. At the same time as you take an abdominal curl, So that's clearing those shoulder blades. You're going to take a knee fold. This is quite hard work. Let's do 4 of these and lower. Keeping the feet flexed, abdominal curl, head is heavy in the hands and lower. Make sure this leg doesn't come in too far, otherwise that shape of that lower back is going to change. And lower. Let's do 2 more. Sure you did do the first 2 very well. There. Good. So I'm going to lift the leg that's closest to the camera first and hold it there. This is where we're going to add our obliques in. We're only going to do 1 each side. I'm going to take the opposite arm across. Palm is down. I'm going to think about trying to saw this thigh here, but I'm actually at my wrist. Keeping my head high, I'm trying to keep my shoulder blades cleared. I'm going to rotate. 5 times. 3, 4, 5, let's go 8, 6, 7, 8. Remember we're only doing it once each side. Hand drop down, so the goal there, the legs are staying still, upper body is rotating but a very small amount. Other leg lifted up, come up into your abdominal curl, clear those shoulder blades. Take the opposite arm across, palm is down. I'm just twisting around that rib cage jam jar lid. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, well done. Good job. Bend the knees, let your legs loll from side to side. Maybe let that head roll in the opposite direction. And breathe. Brilliant. And sitting yourself up. Brilliant. Okay, we have got... let's finish off with some side-lying marching feet. With some rolls, as in it's sort of like a log roll. Let me show you. So we're going to take some movement here, and then the position when we roll onto our tummies, just be careful because you might not be able to see what's going on. You're just going to keep your body nice and solid. You're going to roll onto your tummy as one solid unit. This hand is balancing underneath the shoulder, or not balancing, it's underneath my shoulder, and then I'm going to push back and come back to a balance. So nice straight line. So let's take some marching feet first. So legs, both legs are up, flexing one foot, pointing the other. If you can, if you want an extra challenge, so you could do, this would be the easiest version, just fingertip touch here, keep those feet going if you can, legs are up, feet are nice and parallel. You could balance with the arm by your side, would be one way of doing this. Or, as you're taking your marching feet, you could take an arm wave. About 4 marching feet. So I can't talk and do this at the same time. Trying to lift my waist away from the mat. Trying to connect the rib cage down. 1 more arm wave for me. Okay, and let's keep those legs, keep the feet pointed, maybe lower them a little bit. The goal here is to roll onto your tummy as one solid unit, like you're a tree trunk or a log. So over onto this hand, roll, shoulders and hips get square, just this arm is just there, and then you're rolling back again, and again, 2 more. Onto your tummy and pushing back. So you've got to squeeze the legs together, connect everything in your centre and push back. Brilliant. Let's bend those knees, sit yourself up, twiddle round to the other side. So remember, with your sideways work, there's always one side that's a little bit better than the other, a bit easier for the balance. maybe the coordination. Let's get those feet going. Try and go through your toes as well. And then we're reaching that hand down. You could just stay there. If it's really struggling to balance, have a light fingertip touch on the floor. Try and always do the same level that you did on the other side, rather than just wimping out a bit on your rubbish side for your balance, for instance. And then I'm going to add my arm wave, whoops, which is making it more challenging. Making sure that shoulder stays down, away from your ears. So I'm not touching the floor, I'm not touching my head with this top arm, I'm not collapsing there, I'm just lengthening it away. One more arm wave. Keep those feet going. And then placing that hand in front of you and rolling as one solid unit. Think about your shoulders and your hips being like a block of wood. Onto your tummy. Rolling back again. Last one. And rolling back again. Well done. Bending those knees, setting yourself up. Great. I just wanted to finish off today with let's just do some bear walks. So from all fours. So you can take this as big or as little as you like. You could just have a bit of a move around from all fours and a sway from side to side. You could take some sit bone circles. But if you can, I'd like you to curl your toes under, lift your hips up, just push those hips back, just explore a little bit of movement here, and then start to take one hand forwards, the opposite hand forwards, other hand and the foot. So at the moment I've got my legs bent, feels quite nice. When you're moving backwards, lead with the foot, then take the hand. I'm getting a nice stretch down the side of my back as I move. And then I'm going to try and straighten out. Oh, that feels really nice. Straighten out my leg as I push through with the arm. In fact, I've started to move my foot because I'm thinking more about my legs and my feet stretching. You could stay where you are actually and just pad around. Explore. See how that feels. For me, that feels great today. Just stretching the calves out. Stretching through those toes, and then so the actual bear walk is, or one variation of it, and a really nice stretchy one, is to keep the arms and the legs straight. So you reach far away, then you bring that leg in straight, you reach. Take your time, really slowly, make every single part of it count. Maybe try and take your hips over to one side more. Extend that leg back a little bit more. Push the chest down through your arms. Everything can be done with the legs bent. That's absolutely fine. Maybe take a little twist and a walk from side to side. This is another variation of it. And then finishing there. Coming down onto your knees or wherever you need to be. Well done. Thank you so much.